Chair Curry, we're ready when you are.
Thank you. Good evening. Calling the meeting to order at 6:04. Flag salute led by Commissioner Gonzalez.
Flag of the United States of America, public for which it stands, God, indivisible.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. Here. Commissioner Salas. Commissioner Sandu is absent tonight. Commissioner Singh. Also absent. Vice Chair Juarez.
Here.
Chair Curry.
Here. Potential conflicts of interest. Any commissioner who has a potential conflict of interest may now identify the item and recuse themselves from discussing and voting on the matter. All right, seeing none. Oral communications. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding any item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes.
For the callers on the line, please use *9 to unmute yourself and *6. There's no one in attendance and no one with their hand raised.
Thank you. Statement regarding public hearings. During the public hearing, I will first ask for staff's comments and reports on the item being discussed. After staff's presentation, I will then open the hearing to the public testimony. I will then close the public hearing, at which time no member of the public shall address the commission unless specifically asked by a member of the commission through the chair. The Planning Commission will then discuss the matter among themselves and take action on the item being considered. First item, consideration and necessary action of a resolution to consider approval of number 2021-0009, consisting of annexation and pre-zone of approximately 29 acres and the amendment of an approved site plan encompassing an approximately 63-acre property, including 36 acres annexed, located north of Floral Avenue, east of DeWolf, and west of State Route 99 to allow for regional commercial development. Staff report, please.
Staff has prepared a PowerPoint tonight discussing this item in further detail. Go back one slide, sorry, Lupe. Can you adjust the Zoom window there? Thank you. Next slide, please. So this project, the proposal for this project is for Planning Commission to recommend to the City Council the approval of the submittal package 2021-0009. That submittal package includes an annexation, a pre-zone, a minor modification to a previously approved site plan review application noted above as 2006-0008. This proposal, as mentioned, includes the annexation of approximately 29 acres and to amend the site plan, which encompasses approximately 63 acres. And that site plan was noted above as 2006-0008. The project site is located north of Floral Avenue, east of DeWolf Avenue, and west of State Route 99, including 9 separate APNs. The site is not within the city limits of the City of Selma, and it is planned as regional commercial. The pre-zoning of the parcel will be consistent with the general plan designation as regional commercial as well, and that's noted as CR. A portion of the overall site has been developed already as a dealership and hotel, namely the Toyota dealership and the future Hampton Hotel, just west of the 99. The site is bounded by the future Rockwell Pond to the north, west is vacant land, south is Floral Avenue, and east is an existing commercial development, also known as the Walmart commercial developed area. A little bit of background about the project. This project namely started in before 2010, but in 2010, the City of Selma was certified in EIR and approved a general plan amendment pre-zone and site plan for the Rockwell Pond commercial project. That name was later changed to the Selma Grove project. That project encompassed approximately 94 acres. In 2016, the Rockwell Pond commercial project was renamed as Selma Grove. During the same year, the city approved a minor modification to the site plan and an annexation to incorporate approximately 36 acres of land. The entire project site is comprised of 9 parcels as shown in attachment 1 of the staff report. The current proposed project plans to amend the approved site plan 2006-008, which will reduce the overall total acreage and square footage of the total development. The total area reduction is from approximately 94 acres to 65 acres approximately, which also includes the already annexed portion of 36 acres. The overall total development was reduced from approximately 970,000 square feet to approximately 600,000 square feet plus the 102 room hotel. The allocation of square footage to specific tenants uses are subject to refinement as the project moves forward to development. As we see, there's a figure identifying the proposed areas. As mentioned, the overall area you see encompasses 2 separate boundary lines. It's tough to see the blue and black hash line there, but you can see that just adjacent on the east side of where it's noted as project site with the yellow and black hatching, you see the blue and black hatching there encompassing the Toyota dealership to the north, going all the way south to Laurel Avenue.
Excuse me, Trevor,
Yes.
is this available in our packet?
That area, that figure specifically is not in the packet itself. But attachment, I believe attachment 1 shows the APN map specifically.
It does.
So you can see the boundaries identified in attachment 1 are synonymous with the boundaries shown as up on the screen here. So you can see the blue coincides with the blue on the aerial and the red coincides with the yellow on the aerial above. I can provide this same graphic to you guys following the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Slide, please. Here's a look at the proposed development plan of the entire site. As you can see, it's a large-scale commercial development, including, major tenants, minor tenants, all relating to retail. In addition, you have the hotel identified and the Toyota dealership also identified as well. Next slide, please. So as far as CEQA compliance goes, mentioned previously in 2020 or 2010, the City of Selma certified a final EIR for the Selma Grove project, which at the time was referred to as Rockwell Pond Commercial Project. The project EIR included mitigation measures to avoid and or reduce environmental impacts resulting from the project. The EIR also determined that despite the incorporation of mitigation measures, the project would result in significant and unavoidable effects on agricultural resources, air quality and greenhouse gas emissions, and traffic. Pursuant to the DeWolf and Floral Farney reorganization that was approved by Fresno County LAFCO on June 8th, 2016, the approval of the Phase 1 annexation project included the environmental review and adoption of a mitigated negative declaration. which was tiered from both the final EIR for the Rockwell Pond Commercial Project and the final EIR for the City of Selma 2035 General Plan Update, in accordance with CEQA guideline sections 15.15.2. According to section 15.16.4A of the state CEQA guidelines, an addendum to the previously certified EIR shall be prepared by a lead or responsible agency if changes or additions to the EIR are necessary. In this case, as necessary as a part of a modification to an already approved site plan. None of these conditions described in section 15.16.2 require the preparation of a subsequent or supplemental EIR as applicable. Next slide, please. So the staff has proposed a few amendments that they want to enter into the record as a part of the staff report and later revised when the recommendation to City Council comes through. As shown on the proposed site plan within the staff report, the grand total of area was incorrectly calculated. That's the site plan that is shown as attachment 5. The grand total square footage is 334,500 square feet, and it should be 554,500 square feet of approximated new development. The square footages are subject to change as the project moves towards development. The calculation was just pretty much a typographical. The overall site plan didn't calculate a portion of the overall estimated square footages of a portion of the site plan. So therefore, it left off 200,000 square feet, but I just wanted to note that here that the site plan is not accurate, but the staff report and the analysis as a part of the staff report is accurate. In addition, item number 94 of the conditions of approval shall be amended to add that the city will coordinate the reimbursement agreement regarding the fair share contributions to traffic-related improvements in collaboration with Caltrans. The item number 94 actually states that Caltrans will coordinate the reimbursement agreement. So I just want to add that clarification as well. Lastly, staff proposes to remove item number 1 of the condition of approvals. The city does not have a codified policy that requires site plan application approvals to expire after a lapse of 1 year. The overall scale of the project also does not align with the standard development practices that you would typically see this condition applied to. And this specific project requires a phased approach for the development of the entire project site because it's so large and it includes multiple tenants. In addition, the overall project has already been developed as a portion thereof due to the development of the dealership and the hotel. Therefore, the developer has already shown that he's made advances to developing the overall site. So as the market changes, we don't want to burden the applicant with the consistent need to get the expiration date increased as development occurs on their site. So with that being said, the recommendations are to recommend approval of the overall application and the proposed annexation, pre-zone, and site plan review, along with the conditions of approval, the CEQA EIR addendum, and the proposed amendments. With that, staff will be happy to ask any questions. I do know City Manager Fernando is online, as well as some of the project proponents as well, Mr. Jeff Reed and Cliff Titalian. They can speak on behalf of the project as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone that would like to speak on behalf of the project or against it, please come forward.
Chair Curry, we do have someone online, Jeffrey Reed. Jeffrey Reed, you may now talk.
Yes, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, yeah, I'm Jeffrey Reed, legal counsel for the project applicant. First of all, I want to thank you, commissioners, earnestly for conducting the special meeting and for accommodating the several prior requests for continuance that I know you accommodated. And that additional time has greatly helped us work with the city and Caltrans to refine some of the conditions so that we're all in accord with the arrangements, and hopefully this will also help simplify your deliberations. So as your staff has described to you, what we're actually doing is amending a previously approved and partially developed project. The approvals previously included development of the Toyota dealership and the approvals required for the adjacent hotel development, and that land had already previously been annexed. In addition to those developments, the original project approved included commercial development of the additional 60 acres for a total development of 973,000 square feet plus a hotel. The developers elected to reduce the total scale so that the additional developable acreage is reduced to 29 acres, and the additional commercial development site will total approximately 620,000 square feet plus the hotel site. So we're amending the previously adopted site plan to reduce the scale of the project, and the project site plan has also been updated with our best efforts to better accommodate changes in the marketplace to design a successful commercial center. Because the scale of the project was reduced, we sought to have the originally required traffic mitigation measures reevaluated so that those requirements would be better suited for the revised project. And that updated traffic study was used to support the recommended alternative mitigation measures that are incorporated into the addendum to the previously adopted EIR in accordance with the CEQA requirements as staff has discussed. So one of the items before you is a proposal to recommend certification of this addendum as part of the approval of the amended site plan. And while part of the project has been annexed, the remaining 29 acres still does need to be annexed, and that annexation needs to be supported by the pre-zoning. And so that's part of the overall, so that it would be zoned consistent with the uses of the City of Selma zoning standards. So that would require the initiation of annexation process that LAFCO is going to subsequently coordinate. The developers, in accord with all the conditions of approval and the revised mitigation measures that have been incorporated into the project approvals, and we look forward to the opportunity to provide any additional answers and for the opportunity to develop greater commercial activity in the city. And I do apologize for that item about the grand total area of the square footage. One of the subtotals for major tenants, the 220,000, was omitted when the total amount was calculated, but those square footages were all incorporated into the traffic study, the EIR addendum, the staff report. So it was merely that grand total number, which was an error. All the rest of the study and analysis are supporting that extent of the development.
Thank you, Mr.
With that,
Reed.
I'll
Could you
leave
please
it.
state your address for the record?
Yes, my address is McCormick Barstow, 7647 North Fresno Street, Fresno, California.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak on behalf of the project or against the project? And remarks are limited to 3 minutes.
Callers online, please use *9 to raise your hand. Chair Curry, I do not see anyone else with their hand raised.
Thank you. I will now close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission for discussion and questions. Questions or thoughts?
Sorry. I'm curious as to why they've reduced the scale of the project. Is the reduction going to be for future development, or is it just they've decided that makes more sense?
I can't really speak accurately to that that question. Maybe a project proponent Jeff Reed will be able to answer that more accurately.
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, if you can.
Yes.
Yeah, you can speak.
So, I mean, there's a combination of things. First of all, as you'll see, 30 acres of the property area are being removed from the overall development site. And that was property that was not as fully controlled as the properties that are for the remainder of the development. So we let that property go and focused on the smaller site and reallocated the square footages within the smaller site to suit the more current style of commercial development. So it was a combination of the changes in the market as well as the smaller footprint of land that we decided to take on to develop.
Thank you. Now, the amended traffic study, I think the most recent one that I can see is 2019, 2022. Okay. Sorry, I was flipping through this. I personally would like a little more time with this because these are great numbers, but I'm not a number person. I'm a citizen of Selma who drives in a car in that area frequently. And I kind of personally need to go through and see if all of the traffic data is being taken into consideration. I mean, that's just me. I'd like more time. But the numbers that I'm seeing on this, just glancing at it, I think might be a little low. And that's based totally on anecdotal evidence, my own personal anecdotal evidence. And I'd like to spend a little more time with it.
We also have Jose Benavides on the line as well, who was the traffic consultant on the project itself. So if you have any questions specific about that or any concerns that you would want to ask him, you can definitely do so.
I see the numbers. A lot of them are the turning numbers. You can see that the numbers of the traffic going straight through the on Floral past the off ramp. But I didn't understand the letter from the Caltrans that talks about extending the exit, that they wanted to extend the off ramp, but it doesn't really talk about what they plan to do. They make suggestions on taking the median or changing the median. And I want to know exactly what their plan is for that intersection, because it's a nightmare right now with no other buildings, no other things, you know, the hotel's not open yet. And that's going to impact the traffic in itself, just the hotel, not even counting the rest of the buildings that they have planned for the future. So as like Mr. Garcia said, we're citizens. We go through that intersection in our car on a daily basis sometimes. And so we want to know exactly what the plan is for that area and for Highland and Floral, because those are going to be the most impacted intersections in that area. So numbers is one thing. We know, you don't have to tell us what the numbers are. We know how much traffic we get stuck in. We want to know exactly what the plan is and how soon will that be implemented.
In regards to the letter that you referenced, is that specifically the letter dated August 16th, 2021 or February 10th?
February 10th.
Revised letter.
Mhm.
So the conditions that or the comments that are outlined in the Caltrans letter specifically discuss where Caltrans facilities, are adjacent to city facilities, especially on the highway, State Route 99, and also Highland Avenue, Highland and Floral, I'm sorry. Those specific conditions are detailed and consistent with the proposed traffic impact study from 2019. The traffic impact study was then, the counts were compared to the 2020 numbers. In the 2019 analysis, they had forecasted those numbers. So the purpose of the 2022 traffic count comparison was to validate those forecasted numbers. So as a result of that, in the traffic impact analysis count comparison of 2022, it states that the 2019 traffic impact analysis need not be revised because those numbers are consistent with the traffic counts that were taken in March of 2022. So with that being said, the recommendations that Caltrans has set forth are consistent with that 2019 letter. Those conditions specifically are outlined in the letter and also in the conditions of approval, and we can talk about those too. For one, Caltrans proposes the dual eastbound left turn lanes within the existing geometric constraints of Floral and Highland intersection, and any related intersection widening that would coincide with those improvements as well. Things like signal relocation, things like that. So what you're going to see is an additional lane that's added to the eastbound traffic. So if you're traveling east under the overpass, then you'll see an additional
Extra
turn
lane to get to Home Depot.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, or to make that movement, because we know that, large trucks often are parked there waiting for the light, and, they want to turn left, but no one can go straight, and so that backs up Floral Avenue, so you'll see that improvement there. In addition, the proposal to eliminate the Floral and State Route 99 southbound off-ramp intersection crosswalk at the west leg. That proposal then further states that it wants to construct a paved pedestrian walking path along south side of Floral Avenue from the aforementioned intersection to the Floral and Walmart driveway, meaning that the improvement proposed is to pave sidewalk, a walkway along the frontage, the southbound frontage of Floral Avenue that's currently undeveloped right now, up to the point of the project site, just to facilitate an additional pedestrian access there. As it relates to when these conditions are going to be required / when you can expect them, we touched on it a little bit at the previous meeting, where we have an existing problem that's further enhanced by additional development or people just getting more cars driving, things like that. So the approach that Caltrans, the traffic impact analysis, and the city all agree upon is to take a look at the proportionate share of everybody's impacts to these facilities and have them pay their fair share fees. Things like, for example, like a smaller commercial site, like a drive-through, would have a far lesser fair share allocation impact to those facilities in comparison to this proposed project, which is proposing approximately 29 extra acres of development, that annexation of that new area. So the fair share portion allocation will then pay their fair share fees, and that fee agreement will be in collaboration with Caltrans and the city so that we can make those improvements to help facilitate and help reduce the amount of congestion in that area. In addition, Caltrans has also mentioned that they're still undergoing that study. And we have Dave Padilla on the line too. Maybe you can talk a little bit more about the current ongoings of that analysis, specific to Highland and State Route 99 along Floral, because that is a constant issue that we're seeing I know at the last meeting, we talked about getting those updated numbers, so.
So by us approving the annexation, they still can't do anything until all of this is agreed upon, or can they start building once it's annexed?
So as the agreement is slated currently, the fair share, the certain improvements are required as a part of the development of the project. We've outlined those in the conditions of approval, and those are typical of improvements that are adjacent to the project site, which are immediately, quote unquote, impacted by the project actually being there. Where there are components of or there are facilities that are impacted by the project that aren't immediately adjacent to that project site. For instance, we have the traffic impact analysis calls out McCall and Floral as an intersection that has impacts associated with this project because cars are going to be driving down there. They will have a separate fee allocated to those improvements so that when we need to make those improvements, if we need to make those improvements, we'll have that money there to facilitate the construction, whatever that may be, whatever improvements may be required.
May I say something?
Yes.
We had this issue of traffic on Floral and McCall ever since I could remember serving on this commission. When we were presented with the shopping center where currently Starbucks is, so I'm assuming about 3000 Floral Avenue, I'm not exactly sure the address, and Dr. Boz and the urgent care and all of those, we knew this was going to be an issue. Yet the city moved forward with approving it, making this traffic issue even worse. And we keep hearing that everybody's going to pay their fair share. We're going to find a solution. And here we are so many years later. Nothing happened. Right now, there's nothing we love more than seeing our city grow. We do look at the cities around us. It's amazing. This project in itself is amazing. I'll be looking forward to it. But I'm going to be honest with you, me and so many other citizens, we do everything we can to avoid Floral Avenue right now. So this is not going to help the future business owners or tenants who are going to occupy this project if half of the town is avoiding going to that side because of the traffic. Because I cannot spend basically 45 minutes on that intersection if I have somewhere to be. If we're not going to have a concrete solution being proposed right now by, I don't know, the city, the traffic engineers, Caltrans, I think this discussion means nothing because collecting fees for when we need to do the improvement isn't going to help. We need the improvements now. This is already, a disastrous situation over there. And when Starbucks came, it amplified that problem even more because of the amount of people that go to that shopping center. And the idea was they want it to go in and out, yes, as a drive-through, but take a look at what happens in the rush hours. It's crazy. We're going to need something solid, a good solution that everybody agrees on that this is feasible. And yes, absolutely, we want to see this project move forward. It is long overdue. That's just my thought.
And in the past, they've talked about extending Stillman all the way to DeWolf, having DeWolf become kind of a major artery through that area, widening Floral through that area. And all of those things would be great towards alleviating the issues we have now. But if we're not going to alleviate those issues before this project gets built, and we're going to chase after it, we're going to end up in the same exact place. Making a longer off-ramp isn't going to get, if you go from a half mile to a mile long off-ramp, now you got a mile of cars that got to move through a light 4, 5, 6 at a time because of the backed up traffic. Again, I concur with Commissioner Curry. The development needs to happen. We need to develop retail in this city because we are in a perfect place for that to happen, but we have to do it wisely.
And the proposals that you're talking about, the turn lanes and adding another lane underneath that underpass, that's a major project because there's no room there now. There is no room there. You're talking about redoing the bridge or doing major stuff there. And that's a long-term project. That's not something that, okay, let's approve this and make that happen. It's not going to happen overnight. When they made the shopping center, they talked about turn lanes and stuff. It is so crazy when you turn out of Starbucks, you go to that light because you can't make a left turn. You go to the light and you have to make a U-turn to get back to go east on Floral. It's just, I don't know who thought that up, but it was not, they weren't thinking. So there's just so many little factors, but all added together. We can't sit and approve a project. My opinion is, I don't want to approve a project that has 60 acres of businesses and no place for traffic to come or go from there.
And the solutions are there. They're available. We got lots of open land there that we can come up with traffic plans, and we can come up with ideas that will alleviate the traffic issues in that area.
And you're giving them what they need to do in front of their property. Well, they've got plenty of land there. It's all farming land. They can expand Floral all they want right there in front of their project. But when their project starts funneling back down into town, it's not going to work.
Here we do have Jose Benavides as a comment, if you may.
Yes, thank you.
Ladies, do you have comment to or add to this?
Yes, Jose Benavides, JLB Traffic Engineering. The address is 516 West Shaw, Fresno, California, 9370704. As far as what the conditions look like at Highland and Floral, they are listed starting around page 103 of the traffic impact study. And the reason I'm just referencing that page is that's where you see the cumulative year improvements that often get talked about when fair share comes into play. So the one thing that I'm sure all of you know is that it is an existing, you have an existing situation with queuing more than level of service, and we can agree to disagree because it measures how average delay is measured is sometimes hard for people to follow, but queuing is something that a lot of people can follow if you see cars stacked up, and I know that cars will stack up from Highland and sometimes all the way to the Walmart driveway and vice versa in both directions, and sometimes east towards Whitson. And you see it during certain peak hours. But the improvements, it is, as one of the board members mentioned, it is not a simple design project to add capacity to Highland at Floral. It can be done, but it does take time to get designed and implemented and built. And even just that one intersection, you're going to be in the tune of several $1 million just for Floral at Highland. It's not something that's going to get done with $1 million. You're not going to be able to do it just because it's complex. But the idea there is to add a second eastbound left, add a westbound right turn lane, even though it's not going to this project. But if you add that right, it alleviates a lot of queuing. And also heading north on Highland, extending the lane because it drops too quick as you cross Floral. So by extending that, it also improves queuing. So there's things of that nature. Do you have more, as far as the volumes, these are peak hour volumes. We did analyze both weekday as well as Saturdays during around the midday. And because the traffic study is in many, was getting old, we did recommend to the city that we ought to recount and to see whether the projections we made align with counts again, and they did. And it also, a lot of the volumes that we assume as far as the near-term traffic, we assume pretty much every project that the city has, whether or not they've even broken ground, things like Selma crossings and things like that, all over the city.
You're talking about Floral and Highland. I'm talking about Floral and the southbound 99 exit of the freeway.
Yeah, so they're all tied together. If eastbound Floral is backed up, your southbound lefts have nowhere to go. So by adding additional capacity on Floral on some of the turning movements, some of the queuing that takes place on the 99 on the off ramp would be lessened. But the state does have a study that they're about done with. I haven't seen it necessarily, but I understand that they're fully analyzing the two, that ramp, the southbound off ramp from 99 to Floral, as well as Floral at Highland. And David Padilla from Caltrans would have more information on that one. But yeah. But so historically what we do is we go through a scoping process with the cities, the county, and Caltrans. And the analysis of the off-ramp was not an item that we were asked to do. So that's probably why you're not going to see that specific item.
I use the similarity of the situation as like the main sewer trunk line in Selma when it came to residential development. We had in the end to stop residential development until we put a new sewer trunk line because we were at capacity. I feel this project is the same thing. It's going to really push the traffic problem over there to as big as it can be. So we definitely need to find some solid solutions. We understand this is going to cost millions, which is why we're concerned that no one is going to spend the millions. And then we're going to end up with a nice big project and no streets to accommodate for that. Even if it meant, in my opinion, putting a detour or a longer way for someone to go home rather than being stuck on that intersection with several traffic lights in a row, they would take a longer, an extra mile or two if there's a way. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I have a feeling that we can find a solution. We can find alternative streets, routes, directions to find a solution for this, so we don't end up having to say, okay, well, now what? We developed this whole thing and we cannot get to it.
Dwight Nelson, Dwight.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. May I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
When I developed the Peace of Anderson restaurant, the Holiday Inn Hotel, the Chevron gas station, the Enterprise Rent-A-Car building, and the Selma Auto Mall, the city at that time required me to lengthen the off-ramp from Highway 99 onto Highway 43, to widen Highway 43 from the Highway 99 overpass going south to Rose Avenue. And none of my property could be developed until I did that work. So I had to build the road first and had to place up the bonds, had to do all the 100% bonds to guarantee that I would complete the work. And all of that started. And once I had that going, the city then allowed me to start developing my property with buildings. And that came first. Highway 43 came first. Since that time, I watched Floral Avenue get more and more congested. And it's just a matter of time before there's going to be a bad accident and somebody's going to get hurt, if not killed, due to the overcrowding that you currently have on Floral from Highway 43 going west past Walmart. The road is a mess, and Starbucks certainly added a lot to it. I agree with that. But it's more than just Starbucks. It's traffic that comes out of the Food for Less shopping center that wants to turn left and go to Starbucks or wants to go to Walmart. And legally, they can't do that, but yet people are doing it all the time. And the whole road thing needs to be fixed. And it's been 25 years. When I did my development, they were talking about at that time that Floral Avenue had to be fixed and corrected to handle the traffic, which at that time was probably a tenth of what it is today. And the word that we always were getting was that, well, that's going to happen. Don't worry, it's going to happen. Caltrans wants a lot of work done, and nobody's willing to put up the money to do it yet. At the same time, I had to bond the project on Highway 43, $3 million project. I had to bond it, and then I had to construct it, and that's what I did. At that time, the Stillman Street intersection was defined by Caltrans, by John Harden, the city engineer, and it was established that Stillman Street going west to DeWolf was going to be the ultimate answer for getting traffic off of Floral back onto Highway 43, back onto Highway 99, going south and going north, without ever having that traffic have to enter into that Floral Avenue intersection with Highway 43. And I've explained this before the commission, before the council. I've even brought in a drawing that shows it. It's been in existence for a long time. And for some reason, nobody at the city in the hierarchy, your city manager, going back to Teresa, then Isaac, Teresa, then Fernando, no one has wanted to really approach that idea for fear that it would cost money or whatever it's going to take. But I said, well, at least you should master plan it. At least you should annex the land. And now I understand Mr. Cashin is wanting to develop apartments, which would basically block traffic going from Floral over to Stillman Street. And it's just compounding the problem. And you've got that intersection at Highway 43 and Stillman and Peace Boulevard was designed with, it's the largest intersection in Selma. When you look at the turn lanes that you have coming in and out of those streets, it was designed right by the engineers at that time. But ever since that time, everyone's just kind of ignored it. Directly on the west side of Kaiser is the California Waters water tank, is the consolidated irrigation large ponding basin. Sewer lines have been extended. And so that area is ready to go. But for whatever reason, the city and this has been going on 5 years that I've been talking about it, the city has totally ignored it. And the last time I talked to Fernando, he says, well, gee, how is the city going to pay for it? I said, well, the city's not going to pay for it. The developers are going to pay for it. And you give the developers encouragement by coming up with some type of financial program and assistance, and they will do that. And then you've got the problem of Floral Avenue solved, because you're going to have traffic that can go from Floral directly across to Stillman. And then on Stillman, they come down to Highway 43, and the people can drive to Hanford, Lemoore, the prison, or they can get on Highway 99 going north or south, and they will never have to go to the Floral Avenue intersection.
Mr. Nelson, sorry, I would hate to interrupt you, but we're past the 3 minutes. So I
Thank
thank
you.
you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Chair Curry, City Manager Fernando Santillan would like to weigh in.
Please go ahead.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Fernando Santillan here. And thank you, Mr. Nelson, for your comments. And I think the conversation has been very productive. I think I would invite Caltrans to participate in the discussion and provide a status update on the feasibility study that really is what we're waiting for to really determine what's going to really be feasible to do at that southbound off-ramp on Floral, so that then we can begin conditioning projects according to that study. Because until, like Mr. Nelson mentioned, until we have a good plan for what the most appropriate and comprehensive solution for that area is, it's really hard to require developers to pay a fair share on something that really we don't know what it's going to be. So that's a project that we began last year, that Caltrans began analyzing last year, and it sounds like it's moving forward, though it's taken a while. But these issues at 99 and Floral, as we've all heard, are not new. And while we have to strike a balance between approving projects or allowing projects to continue the permitting process, and determine at what point are we going to allow these projects to actually come online, right? So there's a difference between approving the entitlements, everything right up to the start of construction. And the Planning Commission has every right, and the City Council has every right to say, well, we can move forward with the planning entitlements, with site plan amendments and those kinds of things, and maybe condition the project to to really not start construction or be open until this whole situation is resolved. That's not going to exacerbate the problem at Floral Avenue. But I think that it's not going to be a single project that's going to fix the whole solution. And we also have to put a name to the, for lack of a better word, a name to what the solution actually is, whether it's roundabouts at the 99 and southbound, the southbound Floral exit and 99. What is it actually going to be? And then we can say developer A, Mr. Titillion, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Cashin, all of you have projects there. You're all contributing to this particular improvement that's going to solve this issue, which is being caused by your projects and all of the projects developing in the future. So those are my 2 cents, but I think, like I said, I think Dave Padilla is on the line, and maybe he can share a little bit about where we are with that feasibility study. But again, I would strongly urge the Planning Commission to consider the entitlement action that's being presented to you today, and maybe we can look at putting some sort of trigger there where that has to be activated before development can actually occur. And that can certainly take further discussions. Thank you.
I think we've all pretty much agreed that we want to see development. That's
Right,
correct.
but I think with the right conditions before they could start.
And what I think I'm being asked to do is to approve what we've been given tonight and then look for solutions. Am I incorrect in stating that?
We are approving the annexation of that piece of property. Is that giving them the green light to start their projects then?
The proposal right now is to annex pre-zone and to approve the minor modification of the site plan, which reduces the development potential on the property. Right now, currently they have approval through a previous site plan that is much larger. But as Jeff Reed also mentioned, the overall scale has been reduced as a part of this minor modification of the site plan.
I believe there's someone on the line that wants to make comments. We'll ask questions after that. Thank you.
Director, yes, we do have Dave Padilla. Dave, you still there?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Padilla.
Yeah, hello, my name is David Padilla. I'm a senior transportation planner representing Caltrans. And to the point of the feasibility study, it is in the final draft. We did analyze both the southbound off-ramp and Floral and Highland. And we did look at different alternatives, such as roundabouts and based on our feasibility studies, roundabouts are not feasible at this location or either location, just due to the high amount of traffic volume. So, but we did identify some traffic mitigations, signal modifications, adding some additional lanes, and of course, this is all future improvements. That feasibility study for the most part is completed. It's just awaiting signature. That should be coming out. I'm anticipating, but maybe a week or two out. But we recognize that that those two locations have been impacted, and one thing I also want to add, Caltrans, we're not pro development or against development. We just want to make sure that our facilities are operating for everyone who's using it. So, but to Fernando's point, yes, the feasibility is done, and we're just waiting for final signature and for our deputy director to sign it. That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, so just to summarize, I guess, we are all in agreement that we would like to see this project going forward, however, with the right conditions. We're kind of being asked to approve the annexation today. However, we still don't have the feasibility study or a solid plan of how we're going to mitigate traffic. Right? So if we are to approve this project today, we really need to either ourselves put the conditions that before they break ground or move any dirt, we would have to see a solution for that traffic, because the annexing the land to the city isn't going to do anything unless they start construction, right? So if we're saying this is our city limit, or no, we added just another 60 acres into our city, it's fine. I believe takes time to get that done anyways. But there, in my opinion, there cannot be breaking ground or construction or any type of improvements to those 63 acres unless we have a solid plan of how we're going to connect that traffic.
And
so
even just having a plan, I mean, we can have it on paper, but they have to whoever the
No, I meant
developers are
with funding.
need to be in agreement with where that money's coming from.
yes.
Everybody's going to be okay with paying their share and make deposits, do whatever you need to do so that we have that money in hand to immediately get started. Because like I said, this is not a little project, widening those streets and what all. It's going to be a major project. It's going to take some time to do that. And if they start developing before the rest of the street improvements are done, we're just going to be worse off than we already are.
And if there are plans for streets that Mr. Nelson has mentioned, maybe the developers, all of them in the city, need to sit together and consider if that is really the solution and pursue it. If this was proposed before, I'm sure there is some value to it. I'm very sure there was studies done for that to be proposed. So we should take that into consideration, or like I said, any other street and exit that will take that away. Because even start of construction is going to add a load of workers that are going to go through that intersection before even tenants and clients and, all of that move in. Just construction alone is going to add a lot of traffic, and it's going to add tractors and trailers and big machinery. And I don't know what it takes, but it's only going to make it worse.
Well, Mr. Nelson said that he was required to make all of those street improvements before he even started building the auto malls. So why can't that be
a condition?
A condition that the street improvements are done before any of those projects get started, because it is going to be a mess.
Because the funding's already drawn up in the plan, you said, right? For each developer to contribute to a certain amount.
The
towards-
reimbursement agreement is just specific to this project. The comprehensive view, the feasibility study that Caltrans is finalizing will take into account multiple properties. So this is just taking a look at the impacts that this project generates. However, the other plan is going to take a more comprehensive look.
So are we giving an okay to any of that, or basically we're just saying you can annex the property and the buck stops there?
with the proposal, so as mentioned previously, the commission's not approving the project tonight. It's recommending that the project be approved by city council. Just to add that further clarification, but to your point, Commissioner Salas, the recommendation and subsequent potential approval of this item will allow the next step to commence, the generation of planning materials such as for like building materials or building plans, I should say, going through the plan checking process, which can be a lengthy process for a project this size. Going through that process prior to any construction activities commencing, because that would require a building permit.
But we're giving them approval to get going,
You would be yes,
recommending the approval,
recommending the approval
and they could get going.
to commence the, the process with the building department.
So can we recommend the approval with conditions that the process cannot get started until roads are in?
You would be recommending a condition to specify you can't pull building permits until those improvements are in. As the conditions are laid out right now, some of the improvements are required as a part of the project improvement or the project itself, and some are already designated as fair share contributions. So what that means is they're not required to construct those improvements. They're required to pay their contributions. So I just wanted to add that clarification. Will the project be required to build those improvements prior to opening a shop there or a building there? Or are you taking a whole other look at the relation between the conditions?
Can we postpone our recommendation until we get the study that Caltrans says it's a week out?
You may propose that proposal. However, just keeping in mind the overall environment of the project itself, it being delayed already a substantial amount, a couple months, just to get a consensus between the city, Caltrans, and the applicant. In addition, with the finalization of the conditions of approval as well, and the consistency between Caltrans and the city.
So who do we think is going to do those improvements on Floral Avenue or any proposed street? Is it the applicant or is it the city? Or is it Caltrans?
It would be the city in collaboration with Caltrans, because it is a city improvement that's affected by nearby development.
So does the city think that they can commence those improvements right away with the money being allocated? Is this going to be enough, or is there a study how much a project like this would cost? Because if the applicant gave his fair share and the city said, oh, well, that's nothing, we need 10 times more for that to get it done. Again, it's still not going to get done. And what this is going to do tomorrow morning, when we walk to our offices, we're going to be bombarded by half the city saying, are you guys crazy? You approved this to add additional traffic. Like, don't you live here? We all live here. We all see the problem. So we need to be able to answer with something concrete and solid saying that is going to be the solution. And this project will commence on that date, and this is going to be completed hopefully roughly by that date before additional traffic is going to be created by this project.
And there are solutions, like people have said, okay, develop Floral Avenue out to DeWolf, take it across to Stillman and develop Stillman. And it gives people another route to go to if they don't want to get stuck on Floral. But right now we have nothing. Nobody's proposed anything. We don't even know what Caltrans is proposing. So how can you want us to say okay when we have no answers?
Sorry.
sorry.
Do you have a comment on the line holding? I apologize. We'll come back to your comments.
Decker, we do have two with their hand raised. Jeffrey Reed.
Yes, hi. I just wanted to refer the commission to the addendum to the EIR, because I think And it's in section 3-13 of that EIR addendum, which is on page 59 of the PDF materials there, where it goes through all of the elements of the various improvements that are being proposed and the project's contributive share of each of those projects. And it's on about a couple of pages, but it does list them all in a fairly easy to evaluate location and shows you what percentage of each of those fixes that this project would be contributing if it's approved. And yeah, it needs some additional funding from some other sources. And as you noted, some of it is fixing existing problems, which aren't supposed to be a new developer's requirement of paying to fix. But we do have a solid complement of projects and a significant contributive share that will be available if this project is able to go forward. And if it's not, then that contributive share wouldn't be available. But it is a good location. They're just a good summary of the various projects that I recommend to you. And the other final thing I'll say is previously there was a lot of discussion about, maybe having a new interchange, and that was going to, at Dinuba, and that was going to help solve things. And we've worked hard to try to keep that as a potential active project for the city. And I recommend the city continue to, make efforts to keep that project a potential. We've been strong advocates and have worked hard to help maintain it as a potential over the years as this project has moved forward.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, sorry, we do not have pages in our packet. What section did you reference?
I'm sorry, it's section 3 of the addendum to the EIR.
Thank you. Do we have another person holding on the line, please?
Sure we do. We have Cliff Tertullian on the line. Cliff, are you still there?
Can you hear my voice now?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Clifford Tertullian. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be heard as represented by council. I would like to focus my commentary on a suggestion. First a comment, then a suggestion. What you have before you today is, by my understanding, and council can confirm this, we have submitted a traffic study, and in an effort to amend our project scope, and have done so to the best of our knowledge in compliance with all of the local ordinances and statutes. And I do request your consideration of approval this evening. And in doing so, I'd like to bring to your attention and perhaps suggest that the concerns being voiced by the commission this evening are more questions to be asked to our policymakers and elected officials. Mr. Reed did mention to you the Dinuba Avenue interchange, and you heard Mr. Nelson mention another street. My apology, I don't remember the name of it, and that it's been ongoing effort to have that installed for many, many years. While it's our responsibility to undertake the support of a traffic study and the things that you have before you, it's hard for a developer or an individual entity to take on the responsibility for actions that the city should take into consideration. And while we have impacts, we're only limited to contributing to those impacts. We can't go out and build a street. We can't tell them what streets to build. We can't tell them when to build it. And with that, I will leave with you. For the last 15 years, we've been talking about the Danube Avenue interchange. Just like Fresno growing from Shaw Avenue to Herndon Avenue, Selma's ready to grow from Floral Avenue to Danube Avenue. And how that's perceived and how it's digested and presented by the city in addressing your concerns or any other commission or development or department is something that I would be totally appreciative if those kinds of questions were addressed by your commission to the city. The city does need those things, but limiting the development isn't going to solve those problems. Those problems need to be undertaken and solutions need to be found under the leadership of our policymakers. Just wanted to see if we can't separate those issues. And if it means a delay, then so be it. But the fact of the matter is we're not going to run out and start development now. The scope of the project is far too large. There's plans that need to be done. There's a lot of work that needs to be done before we even get to a point of having a set of drawings to submit for permit. The hotel is moving forward, and we do seek to grow the city of Selma. But I think all in due course, all of these things should be and would be addressed, but specific to your concerns, I'm suggesting that you address with our city policymakers.
Thank you, Mr. Tatelian. I would hate to interrupt you, but the 3 minutes are up and we do hear what you just said. And that's why we were asking. We definitely agree Selma is going to grow. We definitely agree that this project is long overdue. We just need to make sure it's done the right way. And we understand it is not your responsibility. You're going to just pay your fair share. But we're trying to make sure that this fair share gets basically put to work. Thank you. Well, that's pretty much what we're all saying. So the city, along with Caltrans and the right authorities that are in charge of putting streets in, they need to tell us how they're going to get it started. Because whether it's through Stillman, whether it's through the Danube Avenue interchange, we just need a solid plan before we add so much more traffic to that intersection that's already congested. I don't know if the city attorney has a way to tell us what would be the best way to move forward with this item tonight. I think we've all voiced our concerns. We've heard everybody, everybody's ideas for and against. I wouldn't say against, is mainly just to solve that issue. I believe everybody's concern is solving the traffic problem. We do not have an issue with the project itself. It's just the traffic issue. So we just need to figure out if you can give us some guidance how to move forward tonight and get solid answers on how the roads are going to be fixed in order for us to be able to accommodate this project.
Yeah, so I would suggest, since you guys are not against the project itself, I would suggest that you delay the item to get further clarification on traffic issues. Like you guys mentioned, you can see that feasibility study that Caltrans is going to have and potentially maybe even have a study session where you guys can talk about these traffic issues and then put further clarification into these conditions to address that at a later date.
Thank you. And I believe that is pretty much what we were thinking here, right? kind of table it, not table it just to say in 2 weeks, we're going to approve it, table this recommendation and asking the city to come forward with a plan for the streets.
Well, one more question. If we approve the annexation tonight, and you said we can put conditions on it for delaying building permits until the traffic situation has been addressed and well, actually addressed as nothing has been fixed, then we would still be okay approving that, correct?
Would you be specifically just only approving the annexation and not necessarily the minor modification? That's also attached to the
right.
item.
Yeah,
Yeah. 'cause we
approving the
have to-
annexations to keep the ball rolling so the development can continue.
I would have to defer to legal counsel. Could we take a piece of the resolution and approve that separately?
If it was one agenda item that had separate approvals in it, I would say yes, but since it's one resolution that has multiple pieces in it, I would think that we would have to bring a new resolution just for the annexation in order to do that.
That would be at a later meeting, correct?
And that
If
would
I may
also
make a
be a question
recommendation.
to the developer. Oh, sorry, Fernando.
Sorry,
All right.
my apologies for interrupting, Chairperson
ahead.
Curry. If I'm just listening to the direction that the Planning Commission would like to go in, my recommendation, it would be to, it sounds like you're in favor of the annexation, the project, but the annexation, when we take it to LAFCO, it's going to have, LAFCO is going to ask us, okay, what is the scope of the project? And if the rest of the project hasn't been approved, the site plan modification, we can't say with certainty to LAFCO, this is what the project is going to be, therefore this is what needs to be annexed, right? So there's going to be incongruence there. My recommendation would be to keep, as Mr. Titillian mentioned, it's a very sizable project. It's not going to be built tomorrow or anytime soon, but concurrently we can continue working with Caltrans to develop this plan, working with the developer, working with the city and policymakers, the city council, while the annexation is moving forward, while the development of the project in terms of the planning side of the project, not the construction. But a condition can be made if you're in favor of the project itself that building permits cannot, or encroachment permits for that matter, cannot be issued until a formally adopted plan has been approved and adopted by the city council, addressing the long-term effects of development on Floral Avenue. That would be my recommendation, but council, if you have any thoughts on that approach, let me know, or Trevor. The idea is to continue the process with the project without necessarily, because if we approve just the annexation, I think it's going to be difficult to take anything to LAFCO anyway.
Well, and in
Yeah.
anyways,
And it's-
the site
minor
plan,
modification is going-
yeah, it's just
that-
basically reducing the size.
reducing the
That's
size,
not our
which isn't
issue.
our issue.
So this resolution with everything in it is not the issue. The issue is we can say fine, but we're going to limit it where it's going to stop at a certain point until streets are in. So we can say, we can recommend to the city council approval of this consideration, but nothing can be done further when it comes to construction, basically, until streets are in.
We gotta hold the city to that though.
Exactly, not the developer, the city,
Right.
and that's what I said. This is not on the developer. He paid his fair share. We just need a way to hold the city responsible with coming up with a plan and a commencement date for work. Because coming up with a plan and not doing anything about it, we do have 2 plans currently that for the past 15 to 20 years, we didn't do anything. So we need to say, yes, we're in favor of this project, but construction cannot begin until the city maybe at the same time started construction on the roads. Because also if they started construction, they're not going to open the next day. This is a massive project. So the city can work at the same time as Mr. Tutelian is working on his project to develop the roads and have a beautiful project, both projects completed maybe concurrently at the same time.
Just to add.
I
some
would just word it. Oh, go ahead, Trevor.
I'm sorry. So we can have that contingent upon certificate of occupancy, where the structures couldn't have businesses move in, or
That's kind of too late.
But yeah,
Because you're going to make the
you're-
developer lose money.
right.
He's going to
right.
have buildings that he invested the money that he cannot benefit from until the city decides to start putting roads. That would be unfair to the developer.
Or my other option would have been to limit it to building permits. That way
That's
they can
better.
still do encroachment permits, do offsite improvements, things like that, while the city is on or underway with the improvements of the streets.
And I think the encroachment permits are our biggest issue. How are we gonna get the property to develop the roads
Mhm.
properly to alleviate the traffic issues?
And these are specific to the improvements that are also they're required as a part of the Floral and Highland interchange and the State Route 99 and Floral intersection? Or is it just one or the and or?
I think it has to be the whole thing. It has to be both.
So we're going to have to tackle that and solve it once and for all. And now is better than later.
So that would be worded as approving the resolution with the addendum of requiring the traffic to be
Feasibility.
resolved before building permits can be issued.
That's correct, yeah.
I have a comment, if I may.
Yes?
This is Cliff
Sure.
Chichellian again. I think that in a collaborative spirit, the plans that resolve these traffic concerns need to be undertaken by the city, and I'd like to be on record that we'd be happy to work with the city. There are many solutions outside of the scope of not only our responsibilities, our fair share, but there are many solutions that the city can undertake. And I'd like to call to your attention that, and it was very well said, we couldn't build the buildings and have a condition on occupancy, and nor would we be inclined to spend several $100,000 to develop plans and drawings and solicit tenants without some assurances that such solutions would be satisfactory to the commission and others of concern. So
Right.
please take that into consideration.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Tutelian. Yeah, that's pretty much what I was saying, that we cannot ask a developer to invest money if he's not going to be sure that this is going to move forward. So,
Mr. Nelson has another comment. You wish to,
sure.
Mr. Nelson, are you still there?
Pardon me.
You have a comment, you have your hand raised.
I've completed my commentary. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I was addressing Mr. Dwight Nelson. Thank you, Cliff.
Mr. Nelson, your hand is raised. Do you have any additional comments for the commission? Okay, maybe that was from the previous comment. Okay, thank you. So I would like to close the public hearing at this point. I believe Fernando had something he wanted to add from the staff point of view, or we interrupted him earlier.
No, no further comments from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I think the consensus is to move forward with the condition, right? To approve recommendation of the annexation and the site plan modification but with the condition of basically nothing moves further until the city brings.
No building permits can be issued until the traffic situation has been resolved.
Right, which basically even the developer said he's not going to spend money for site plans and soliciting tenants if there is no such plan in place. So I think we need to get to work quickly. If we need to do a special workshop, a special meeting other than a planning commission meeting to discuss those actions, we'll be happy to do so.
And I think we need to
Yes.
meet anyways with the feasibility.
Right, so as soon
Once
as
the Caltrans report
Caltrans.
gets in, I'd like to have us.
Can you
meet
hear me
and
now?
Go over that
Mhm.
also.
Can you hear me
Do we
now?
want to bring the council? Because they're the ones that are gonna make the ultimate decision.
Yeah,
You reopen the
it's up to
public-
you. What would you like to say? I mean, I don't want to. Can we reopen the public hearing?
You guys can if that's what you want to do. You don't have to.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, you have a
Yes, I'm
comment?
here. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
What is the cost of what the road work is going to cost to do the work that would allow this development to actually issue permits? How much money is it going to be?
That specific number is not detailed in the traffic impact analysis. A percentage allocation is identified there. Those improvements are subject to change in the market of construction materials, things like that. So an accurate number is not able to be provided. However, as a part of the Caltrans feasibility study, we expect that there to be construction costs included in that same study.
So you know, you have no idea if it's $1 million or $10 million.
Not
That
yet.
That doesn't make sense. Obviously, there must be some estimate already by the engineers of what this potential road work is going to cost to be completed. And you're saying the city's going to do it. And then after the city does it, they can build. But really what you're saying is there's an agreement that the city has to do it before they can pull permits. And it doesn't make sense. It's not how development occurs. You have to know what the cost of the improvements are going to be in order to determine if the cost benefit analysis makes sense for the city of Selma.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. I guess that's something to consider. All right. So we're gonna have council let us know how we can make this motion.
Well, do we want to postpone it until we get that study from Caltrans and then make a determination?
But again, none of that falls on the developer.
Right.
So it's,
So we
we're
would
gonna
just be
hold him
stalling.
for.
Well,
the
I mean,
vote.
isn't he
Let
going
him
to
get
be,
started.
isn't he going to be liable for part of that
Well,
cost?
anybody that
He already
develops
is.
there will be,
It's
They
it's
have-
written
Yeah.
down.
like you said, they have to
It's just now,
pay their
now
fair
the city
share.
pretty much has to get to work, we are gonna get the feasibility study, we're gonna look at solutions, we're gonna look at cost for the solution. But that's really the city's responsibility, not the developer.
Okay, so then we want a motion to approve.
Well, that's why I was gonna let our legal counsel just let us know how we can formulate that.
Yes, so I would say that you guys would make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-0009 with the added condition that no building permits are to be pulled until the traffic is resolved at Highland and Floral, and then the 99 off ramp, I believe, as well.
Okay. So
May I
if there's,
suggest, rather than wording it as being resolved, that the city has a formal adopted plan with funding sources and costs to address the impacts of further development on Floral 99.
okay, thank you. All right, if there are, do we still have any further discussions?
If Taking in Mr. Nelson's comments into consideration, not knowing the dollar value of it is going to be one of the things that the developer is going to have to consider whether or not they want to go forward with the project. If we approve the annexation, that's just saying, okay, go ahead and start looking at it. And if he decides it's not cost worthy and he doesn't do the development, we've done nothing, really. Nothing's changed, correct?
Well, not necessarily, because he's like in his EIR, there's already impact fees that basically they have to pay and all of that. The city doesn't know the cost of the project as a whole to fix those streets and the off-ramp. So that's not gonna change for him. It's gonna change for the city and how many other people are impacted by those fees. Because there are other developers in the area and other developments, so the cost isn't falling solely on him.
It'll be spread. Yeah, I understand
know,
that.
and
And the fees they're talking about in the EIR are water and sewer and but have nothing to do with the streets.
No, I believe roads as well, right?
Sorry, can you restate?
Yeah,
the
I'm just
question?
wondering, looking at the EIR, I saw information about they're adding water lines and adding sewer capacity, et cetera, but I didn't see anything about the streets. That I just miss it.
In regards to the impacts analyzed in the EIR addendum, those are standard conditions that the project would be required to extend, oversize, things like that, sewer and water facilities, also stormwater. They would either have to construct piping or retain their stormwater on site. Those are all standard conditions of approval. The main concern and the main portion of the analysis in the EIR addendum has been just centered around traffic and the impacts towards the.
With regard to the fees, Commissioner Garcia, the city does charge traffic impact circulation impact fees for all developments.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I guess at this point, we would entertain a motion from any of the commissioners to approve this resolution with the restrictions that we just discussed.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2021-0009 with the stipulation that no building permits will be issued until the city has a formal adopted plan and financing for the traffic resolution.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Motion by Commissioner Salas first, seconded by Commissioner Gonzalez. Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Vice Chair Juarez,
Yes.
Chair Curry.
Yes. Thank you. So I have just one last question. When this item goes to the council, would staff be explaining pretty much what we discussed tonight? Because we're not going to be there.
That is correct. Yeah, staff will take a look at the minutes. Obviously, notes have been taken. So all of that will be expressed in the staff presentation.
Okay. And is staff going to let us know once the feasibility study have been received and if there is a need for us to meet to work on this item further?
Since this is a very big ticket item, my recommendation, I can connect with Fernando too to help organize it, would be to have a planning commission, a joint city council meeting with planning commission, and maybe even a workshop for the public developers, things like that,
Right.
to take a look at that feasibility study and see what's really in there
Okay.
as a part of the improvements for that area.
All right. Yeah, please, if we can work on that and arrange this workshop. I don't know if we would need to invite Caltrans, if we need to invite the developers that are impacted by that. But I think it would be an item that definitely we need to tackle. Long overdue. All right. Well, thank you so much. Oral communication. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission regarding an item over which the commission has jurisdiction. No action or discussion will be taken on any item not on the agenda. Issues raised will be referred to the chairperson for review. Members of the public shall limit their remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any additional remarks from anyone?
Vicar, we do have Dwight Nelson with a comment.
Mr. Nelson, I just would like to clarify, this is for items not on the agenda.
Nelson, do you still have a comment?
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
You can.
Okay. When is the planning commission going to adjust Stillman Street development from Highway 43 to DeWolf?
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. So I guess this is just for us to talk about later, or? Yeah, I could talk about it now. We will discuss this item at a later meeting, Mr. Nelson, and we can get back to you.
Thank
Checker, there are no other callers on the line with their hand raised, and there is no one in attendance.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion to adjourn if there are no further items to discuss. Thank you. Meeting adjourned at 7:40.